The one with Ross's thing is the 23rd episode of the third season of Friends. This is directed by Shelley Jensen, and there will be spoilers from now as I discuss various aspects of the narrative. This is a really good episode. It's not one of my favourites, but there are quite a few really great moments. Most of my thoughts are chronological. I might jump around a little bit, but generally my notes are in the order that they came to me as I was rewatching the episode. And it starts off with Chandler and Joey with the chick and the duck, which they're considering either calling Chuck or Dick. It's adorable, and I just love the chick and the duck. And then Ross comes in, says there's a thing on his butt, and we have this brilliant moment that might be the thumbnail for this, where Ross is bending over and Chandler and Joey are beside him, and Rachel walks in and just gives them a look and leaves. And just there's something about the way that that's framed with Ross at an angle and Chandler and Joey. It looks brilliant. It's perfectly done. Really great way to start the episode. We then learn about the second part of the episode. There are three main narratives. The second one involves Phoebe dating two people. She's dating Vince the fireman, played by Matt Battaglia, and she's also dating a kindergarten teacher called Jason, who's played by Robert Grant. And she has to kind of juggle the two of them, worrying that one of them will meet the other because they're not aware of each other. And I'll talk more about that when we get there chronologically. But it's nice to have a story that focuses on Phoebe, as it's been a little while. The other part of the narrative involves Monica, and we have a scene that I love where everybody is in Pete's apartment, and I love the design of this apartment, but in particular I love the CD rack because it really dates the episode and it just makes me smile. Underneath the television for the video call, there's a rack of CDs, and it just made me feel so nostalgic for having a CD rack and having physical CDs. I rather enjoyed that quite a lot. Obviously hits a little differently now to what it would have done back in the day, but when they're in the apartment, Joey reads out that there's a check that Pete wrote for a ring designer, and everybody, understandably, jumps to the conclusion that Pete is going to propose to Monica. And we will get back into that part of the narrative in a moment, but I will say I can't remember how I felt watching this episode the first time, but I imagine that's very unpredictable with what's happening with that part of the narrative. I don't think anybody would have guessed where this ring design is going. But as I said, we'll get back to that in a moment. But for now, we're going back to Ross and what he thinks is a third nipple. He goes to a doctor, and we have this rather interesting scene where many medical professionals are looking at Ross's butt. But although they can confirm that it's benign, which is a good thing, they don't know what it is. So they refuse to take it off, and Ross doesn't know what to do about it. Phoebe, meanwhile, doesn't know what to do about her problem. She decides she's going to break it off with Vince because, although he's got a great body, he's not sensitive. So she goes to Vince at the fire station, breaks it off, and realizes he's very sensitive. And I like the fact that they're saying here that there's more beneath the surface. At least this is what I'm reading into the episode, that Phoebe, because she hadn't known him very well, just kind of assumed that he wasn't sensitive because he hadn't showed that side of him yet. But Phoebe learned that actually, given time and given opportunity, you can learn that there are more layers to people. And I think that's particularly important when it's somebody who you're attracted to simply because they have a good body. There might actually be more beneath the surface, which I thought was pretty great. And with Phoebe's narrative and the pair of them meeting at Central Perk, it's a shame that the episode concluded that way because I wanted Phoebe to be happy. But on the one hand, I feel like it also suggests that maybe you shouldn't date multiple people at once. I know that if you don't say you're exclusive, then some people think there's no problem with dating multiple people, but the person you're dating might be okay with that. So I think communication is definitely key. So on the other hand, it's also a pretty open message, I think, and you can read into it what you will, but either way, it was nice to have a narrative involving Phoebe because we haven't had one in quite a while. Going back to Ross, he goes to visit Guru Saj, played by Kevin McDonald, and he declares that it's a Kundus, so we have a name for it, and he decides that they're going to take it off with love, But before Ross really has a chance to voice his skepticism, the Kundas comes off on Guru Saj's watch. And honestly, whenever I watch that bit of the episode, I feel a bit sick. It just makes me feel. I'm not squeamish in general, but there are certain things that I just cannot stomach. And the idea of pulling off a skin abnormality with a watch, it makes me a little bit queasy. But it's very well done, and definitely, I guess, a nice conclusion for Ross. We then have Monica and Pete. And Monica looks gorgeous. I love the dress she's wearing here when she is having a romantic evening with Pete, and she thinks, understandably, that he's going to propose. And he ends up asking her to be there at the front when he is trying to become the ultimate fighting champion. He paid somebody to design a fighting ring for him. As I said before, I absolutely do not think anybody, unless perhaps you are heavily into fighting and your mind goes to that when you hear ring, I don't think anybody else would have assumed that that's what this ring was. I think it's fair to say most people would have thought it was an engagement, and I imagine I did too the first time I watched this. And it's a little bit heartbreaking for Monica, and it's very unclear at this stage where their relationship is going. I won't say any more at this point, but certainly it's a bit of a whirlwind in terms of Monica's emotions here. And Pete, I don't know how I feel about Pete. I think Pete brings some interesting narratives, but I feel like part of me just doesn't love him. I'm not 100% sure. If you have any strong opinions about Pete, please feel free to let me know. I'm kind of on the fence, and I think that's always been the case. And then at the very end, we have a delightful scene. I absolutely love it. And it's back at Guru Saj's workplace. And Chandler and Joey have taken the duck, as they've named him Dick, to try and see if they can get help with a cough, because apparently the vet can't do anything, which is quite interesting, but I know nothing about ducks. And, well, the duck ends up flapping like crazy, and it's just a beautiful moment and a very fun and funny way to end the episode. So definitely not a bad episode at all. A lot of really great things here to enjoy. As I said, it's not a personal favourite, but at the same time, I can't fault it. I still enjoy it, and I'm sure I'll always be happy to watch it.